As you age, are you finding you maintain your energy throughout the day? Or are you just exhausted at the end? Have you considered recently whether food you eat drives you or just drains you? Welcome to the Live for Longevity channel, which explores how those approaching retirement or are already retired can live longer, healthier lives. I'm Aaron Patrick, and on this channel, I share my health journey and how I turned around my metabolic health at age 60 with better day-to-day food choices for more energy, lower weight. I sustainably lost 25 pounds in 2025, and reversal of chronic diseases like high blood pressure, all the while maintaining a busy job as a manager at a well-known employer. In this episode, I seek to drill down on how acting on the mindset that food is fuel can lead to feeling better, living healthier, and add life to your years, not just years to your life. I'll discuss these topics. First, why we must eat, that is, how food really is fuel. Second, what bad choices everywhere we must avoid. Third, why it's gotten harder to do so. Fourth, how to make better choices. And fifth and finally, the practical steps that you can take starting today. If that content sounds interesting to you, please hit the like button and consider becoming a subscriber. This is a new channel, episode 3, so every little bit of engagement will help it grow. So, first, a disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor, a scientist, or a trained nutritionist. I do, however, have decades of experience in solving problems, working with complex technical information, and coaching others in the workplace and beyond. This is content for educational purposes. It's not personalized health or medical advice. I'm rather seeking to help others navigate among the same challenges that I face dealing with the grocery store, the medical system, the wellness industry, and that sea of conflicting information out there, all viewed from the perspective of a consumer and occasional patient of the U.S. healthcare system. So let's get to it. First, why must we eat? Simply put, our bodies need food for nutrition. It's not necessarily why we consume what we eat, but if we're going to live for longevity, or at least for a healthier stint on this earth, we must get a firm handle on the basics. Distractions do not help here. The body requires a balance of nutrition to fuel its many functions, and if we keep that in mind, it will serve us well. So what is nutrition? It's the process of providing or obtaining the food necessary for health and growth. Nutrients, substances found in foods that help our bodies to grow, reproduce, and survive. In short, whatever the definition, food really is like fuel in your figurative gas tank. And you want it to power your body forward, and to do so for a while. So there's a very simple question to ask of everything you eat. Is it nourishing? I emphasize this point because it was very helpful to me to keep that in mind as I assessed the array of choices before of what I could eat. On my health journey, that question really helped me stay focused on eating in a way that contributed to a higher level of energy and ultimately to better health. In episode 1, I spoke about the value of listening to your body to understand how much to eat. Thinking of food as fuel helped me to consider what to eat. It underscored that there was a connection between what I ate and how I felt. And by taking that as your measure, you can assess the value of food options before you and decide what to accept and what to reject. Which leads to the second topic today. What bad choices everywhere we must avoid. Now, you don't need me to explain at length how there are many bad food choices that surround us. But they do abound, and bearing that fact in mind as well is essential to avoiding any sort of trap, that trap of making bad choices without even thinking about it. We should practice mindful or intentional eating, and in that way we can avoid eating on autopilot. So, added sugar, ultra-processed food, the wrong fats, too many calories, more starch than nutrients. There are many bad options around us, and it's going to depend on the individual, what's worse and what's just bad. But the point is, you can't just reach for what's available and consume it. From my own experience, in fact, working an ordinary office job in the United States is akin to navigating a nutritional obstacle course. Coffee, anyone in the morning? Okay, it's 0 calories to start, 15 to 20 calories for a sugar packet. But if you go for the Frappuccino type of drink with an additional 140 to 200 calories, the syrup, the cream, that's just a start. You can go up to 500 if you make it extra large, and that's without adding the donut. Nutrition? Limited, and it's only 9 o'clock. Mid-morning snack. My office is a literal gallery of cookies, candy, savory snack, happy hour leftovers, or other sweets that coworkers shared when they returned from travel. Lunch. Now, the cafeteria in my office building sells food by the ounce, but as served, it's sold by the pound when you fill up the container. Afternoon snack. I just never cease to be amazed at the spectacular variety on offer in the United States, from cookie bars to protein bars. But whenever I read the ingredients list, I'm also never cease to be amazed at how many new and unfamiliar words I see. I don't think I want to add that many additives to my diet. Come dinner, I was often so hungry and just numb with decision fatigue that anything would do. If it was packaged, I would skip over the details like sodium load or portion size or the nutrients I was missing. Bottom line, these days, you can't just eat whatever and be okay. You can be average or you can be normal, that is, in relation to those around you. But certainly once you're in your 50s, neither of those choices will likely translate into healthy. I did it for years, and at age 59, I found myself on an energy roller coaster. My weight was rising, and health indicators were all worsening. The more I looked into why, I realized that it was not just me. It had, in fact, gotten harder to make good choices. And that's the third topic I want to discuss today. I'm speaking especially to anyone under the age of 50 who might be wondering whether it was always like this or if something has changed over the years. And the quick answer is yes, the food environment has completely changed since the 1970s. One benefit of growing up in that decade is that I remember that experience even today, and I've researched the issue a little further. Now, on a positive note, government started promulgating dietary guidelines that would encourage low-fat and other dietary changes so as to prevent chronic diseases, notably cardiovascular diseases. But industry also responded by developing ultra-processed foods that were just loaded with salt, additives, and sometimes artificial sweeteners, to name just a few. These met government guidelines for low-fat or no-sugar added labels, but even though they were labeled as healthy, they weren't necessarily. In fact, for some, there's real doubt about whether these products are, in fact, food at all. Now, Chris Van Tulleken has recounted this story in his book, Ultra Processed People. It's a 2023 book, and the subtitle is quite interesting. Why We Can't Stop Eating Food That Isn't Food. With the push of the industry behind ultra-processed food, in fact, something new emerged. Snacking emerged as a thing, commonly accepted. Prior to the 1980s, snacking just wasn't as common. And on top of that, with the rising price of real food ingredients, companies also sought cheaper and cheaper inputs. So high fructose corn syrup, for example, replaced sugar. Companies also embraced more additives so as to improve shelf life. The ingredients list for fast food hamburgers and so many other products that you buy in the grocery store, for example, are just much longer than they were 50 years ago. So the upshot, unhealthy options as a share of the total food on offer on the market have increased. And not coincidentally, so have the chronic conditions of obesity and type 2 diabetes, to name only two. Now, I want to emphasize that I say this without judgment. There was no collapse of willpower in the 1980s or since. The food environment changed fundamentally. So what to do? And that's the fourth topic today, how to make better choices. And that starts, I believe, by recognizing the power that you have to shape your own life. It involves, in its simplest form, the two words, yes and no. Now let's start with no. The food choices on offer may be bad, but you don't have to accept them. If you have fixed in your mind the idea that food is fuel, the food you eat, and you will not consume food that is not fuel for you, then you're most of the way there. In fact, no just might be the most powerful tool you hold. Be polite, of course, but after a certain age, somewhere after 50, there are times when the best option is just not to eat anything at all. It might be a social event, or when you feel momentary cravings, or just see something that looks good. Stop, think, and remember that you can say no. When I thought about what I ate in those terms, it was really in my own hands, my own decision to make. I leaned into that, owning that power and leveraging it. Ultimately, I realized I choose what I eat, when I eat, how much I eat. It was very empowering. So what I did, like when I start any project, I devised a plan. Every Saturday or Sunday, I would plan every meal for the week ahead. I programmed where I was saying yes to the foods that offered good nutrition into each meal. I did that for each meal throughout the week. I scheduled when I would take lunch to work. It meant sometimes I would have to do batch cooking so that I would have healthy meal options available when I got home. It meant thinking about where I would eat out, what the menus were for those meals. And then with all of those instances of yes in place, I was able to say no to the bad choices much more easily. I knew when and where I would eat my next healthy meal. It might be at home, it might be on my desk. And that kept at bay the cravings that can lead to bad decision-making or making bad choices when there is no plan. Now, fifth, and this is the final topic today, practical steps to put the food as fuel mindset into action. From my own experience, preparing that weekly menu was the first step. It kept me on track. By plotting out each week, and within each week, each meal, I was able to integrate healthier living into the whole of my life. I asked, who would be at the meal? What would I eat? When would I eat? Where? And why was I making the choices I did? Early on, I found it useful to just write everything down. My thinking was, if I fail to plan, I have planned to fail. And the reason for that is I knew that I would not always live up to my ambition. There would be days when I would fall to the level of whatever system I had put in place. So first, plan. But second, give yourself some grace, especially if you're trying to make major changes in what and how you eat. There is a lot in this journey for which the 80-20 rule is far preferable to perfection or seeking perfection. Particularly at the start, the direction is much more important than every detail. If you are getting it right 80% of the time, you are on the right track and you can expect to see real improvement over time. Finally, think about those situations where you'll have many unhealthy choices ahead of time. Decide on a plan. It may be to skip the happy hour. It may be to drink water rather than soda or a cocktail at whatever event you're attending. But you may want to join that pizza party with old friends because those connections matter to you. Bottom line, live life. And if you eat well, you will likely have more life to live. Thank you for watching.